George Francis Boehner Ellis, the Emeritus Distinguished Professor of Complex Systems in the Department of Mathematics and Applied Mathematics at the University of Cape Town, South Africa. He co-authored The Large-Scale Structure of Spacetime with University of Cambridge physicist Stephen Hawking, published in 1973, and is considered one of the world's leading theorists in cosmology. Okay. And what he had to say. On page 4, quote, why does it always want to highlight a huge section that I'm not trying to indicate here? Okay. People need to be aware that there is a range of models that could explain the observations, Ellis argues. For instance, I can construct you a spherically symmetrical universe with Earth at its center, and you cannot disprove it based on observations. Ellis has published a paper on this. You can only exclude it on philosophical grounds. In my view, there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. What I want to bring into the open is the fact that we are using philosophical criteria in choosing our models. A lot of cosmology tries to hide that, end quote. Think about that. Think about the weight of that statement. This is the type of thing that, for whatever reason, I don't claim to fully understand how people operate or why they think what they think. It baffles me. But for whatever reason, quite a few people cannot be made to understand what this means, no matter how hard you try to reason with them. And it's usually the people that are the most indoctrinated. That means the PhD holder types. Not always, but usually. Quote, you can only exclude it on philosophical grounds. What I want to bring into the open is the fact that we are using philosophical criteria in choosing our models. A lot of cosmology tries to hide that. Specifically stating, as an example, I can construct you a spherically symmetrical universe with Earth at its center, and you cannot disprove it based on observations. Okay? And that is from whom is said to be one of the world's leading theorists in cosmology. Moving forward, again, one more time I'll show the article this is from, or the date, rather. It was in Scientific American, October 1995. Okay. Moving forward, we have, let me remember, page 81, and I believe this is Bernard Jaffe. Yep, this is Bernard Jaffe. Bernard Jaffe was an American chemistry teacher, science journalist and historian of science, specializing in the history of chemistry. An erroneous hypothesis. To his utter amazement, this is from his work The Speed of Light, from a section titled The Elusive Ether, page 76. An erroneous hypothesis. To his utter amazement, the experiment produced a zero effect. This is in reference to the Michelson-Morley test. To his utter amazement, the experiment produced a zero effect. Michelson could find no drag on the transmission of light in any direction. He detected only the slightest shift in the interference fringes. Both halves of the split single beam of light were returning at virtually the same instant. The data were almost unbelievable. The so-called ether wind had no effect whatever on the velocity of light, whether the beam was traveling with the wind or across it. There was only one other possible conclusion to draw, that the Earth was at rest. Of course, this was preposterous. Or rather, quote, this, of course, was preposterous, again, just to be exact. End quote. So, Bernard Jaffe specifically states there is only one other possible conclusion to draw, and that is that the Earth was at rest, which he immediately dismisses with, this, of course, was preposterous. Why? Well, I don't know, just because groupthink, that's why. But there's that one. The next one. And understand the significance that you won't even, we're already at the point in modern day where these quotes you have to know where to look for them. You have to get lucky enough to stumble upon this type of stuff, because people will continuously misrepresent and lie about these things in order to defend their ingrained beliefs. This is the end result of indoctrinating people from the time that they are able to walk and talk with the specific ideas of heliocentrism that they have been indoctrinated with. So again, moving forward, we reach, let me remember which one I'm on right now. So this is page 38. James A. Coleman. Relativity for the Layman, page 38, from a section called The Great Dilemma. Possible explanations for Michelson and Morley's results. The failure to detect the ether could be explained, of course, if the ether did not exist, but the necessity of the ether's existence was too firmly entrenched to be discarded. Now, keep in mind, he's sort of misrepresenting it here in the sense that this test fully revolves around the necessity of the existence of the ether. It doesn't. It's simply a measurement about space, as in like literal physical space between two objects. That's supposed to be the variable that's being tested here. So, or the parameter that's being tested here. Okay, so instead, 4 reasons were advanced as possible explanations of the inability of scientists to detect the ether. The easiest explanation was that the Earth was fixed in the ether, and that everything else in the universe moved with respect to the Earth and the ether. Then we on Earth would not experience an ether wind. What he should have said, the real representation, is that if there was motion and an expanded path that one beam of the light would have to travel through due to this motion, then you would have had a measurement in the change of the fringe patterns, the interference pattern left by the light waves. Okay, again, it's to do with physical space, but whatever. Then we on Earth would not experience an ether wind, thus making the detection of the ether impossible. Such an idea was not considered seriously, since it would mean, in effect, that our Earth occupied the omnipotent position in the universe, with all the other heavenly bodies paying homage by moving around it. The fact that the Earth was only one of several planets revolving around the sun was enough to dispel any notion that, as a planet, it occupied any kind of godly post. Talk about circular reasoning, huh? So we're already seeing a pattern here where, for whatever reason, I mean, we know exactly why, right? Because people have been taught to be this way. They're just behaving the way they've been taught to behave. It's to be expected. James A. Coleman was a physicist, astronomer, professor of physics, and chairman at Department of Physics, American International College since 1957. Instructor in physics and astronomy, so on and so forth. Okay. So there's, Jeff, Ellis, Coleman. Okay. I believe that is all I pulled up for this particular example. I think I might have had one more. Yeah, okay. One more. And this one is from Lincoln Barnett. So here he's showcasing the Michelson-Morley experiment. The apparatus. Again, I've provided, if you want more information on this type of stuff, just go to my video, The Cosmological Cover-Up. But page 43, Lincoln Barnett. The Michelson-Morley experiment confronted scientists with an embarrassing alternative. On the one hand, they could scrap the ether theory, which had explained so many things about electricity, magnetism, and light. Or, if they insisted on retaining the ether, they had to abandon the still more venerable Copernican theory that the Earth is in motion. To many physicists, it seemed almost easier to believe that the Earth stood still than that waves, light waves, electromagnetic waves, could exist without a medium to sustain them. It was a serious dilemma, and one that split scientific thought for a quarter century. Many new hypotheses were advanced and rejected. The experiment was tried again by Morley and by others, with the same conclusion. the apparent velocity of the Earth through the ether was 0. And again, understand here that the correct statement, the most accurate statement, would remove through the ether. It would simply be the apparent velocity of the Earth was 0. And because it's a measurement of space. Okay. And then Lincoln Barnett was an editor and author, most notably at Life magazine for many years. Wrote a number of books, including the one that I just referenced. So that last one was The Universe and Dr. Einstein. All three of these references are available on Internet Archive. And then I already showed you the reference for the Scientific American article. That's it for today. Much love.